What up, what up, what up, what up? What's going on, Met fans? What is going on? And welcome to let's say a bonus episode of Blunt Thoughts tonight as we were with you last night, but we had an opportunity to have a guest, someone who I've listened to a lot on WFAN and got her insight and enjoyed her insight and the stuff that she's brought on to the table throughout the years. And I wanted to get her thoughts, on this New York Mets off season and how it's going and all that stuff. And I'm talking about WFAN's Sunday night host, Laurie Rubinson. Now we won't waste her too much of her time because it is Monday Night Football. We both forgot about this. We both forgot about playoffs as we scheduled this. But Laurie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Happy to be with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm happy to have you. I got to meet Laurie. I was lucky to meet Laurie a couple of times in the QBC this year. We kind of like missed each other, but then we exchanged a couple of messages here on X, and I was like, you know what, let's have Laurie on. I've been thinking about it for years, with a lot of you guys. But anyways, let's not waste time. Like I said, we're gonna have Laurie and get her insight on the Mets. I think Laurie's a Mets fan. Do I have that right? I sure
Yes.
sounds like it when I listen to
Yeah,
her.
yeah. Here's a 1986 signed baseball team baseball. But yeah, born and raised by my dad, Mets fan.
Nice, nice. Not is that all the players on
Yeah,
that baseball?
yeah. My
Ooh,
brother. It actually was my brother's. So I got it from my brother. But it's yeah, 1986 Mets. All the players' signature.
okay. So we're probably like right on the same wavelength as far as where our fandom comes from, right? Like that's my team. I was 10 years old when that team won the World Series, so all about the '86 Mets. But we're here to talk about the 2025 Mets and the 2026 Mets. What the heck?
Yep, 2026. Yeah, no, it's and it's been a while since that '86 team.
Where's that coming from? Because are you watching something?
I don't hear anything. I just hear you. All
No,
good.
I hear something in my ear. I don't know where it's coming from.
Oh,
Give me a second.
want to start
Everything's
again?
closed. Yeah, I don't know where the heck that was coming from. I apologize. Where is this coming from? My apologies. That was me. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I could hear it in my ear, and it was driving me crazy. I'm so sorry. I had something playing that I couldn't even see. But yeah, we're here to talk about these 25, 26 Mets. Um, let's start there. Well, you know what? Forget about that. But where are you on how this offseason's gone after the disappointment that was 2025 and how that played out and the changes and everything that David Stearns has done so far?
So, my grade so far is a massive incomplete. That's what
Yes.
I feel about the off season. And I get it if Mets fans are disappointed. And so far, the off season's been a disappointment. I see the strategy and the direction, but it's incomplete. And look, if we get to opening day and the Mets have added one more impact bat, and by impact bat, I'm talking about somebody like a Kyle Tucker, that's an impact bat. If the Mets go ahead and add an impact bat by opening day and an impact starting pitcher, and by impact starting pitcher, I mean somebody who you can hand the ball to start game one or game two of a playoff series. That's an impact pitcher to me. If David Stearns brings on an impact bat and an impact starter between now and opening day, then I can take a look at this Mets team and this Mets roster, and I can look back at that 2024 OMG Mets team that we all fell in love with. That was so much fun to watch. And I can say, all right, I see what the plan is here. I see where they're heading, and they want to give opportunities to some of these young players. A season that where we'll see more Nolan McLean and Carson Benj and people like that. I can get on board with that, and I can be excited about that. But this team to me is, badly needs another impact bat for that outfield and another impact starting pitcher. So that to me is the offseason so far.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think you nailed it in the incomplete. I don't think there's any Mets fan that can say anything but that, or can give it any grade but that. Now, I do think it varies as to how you feel about that incomplete, right? Some people it's incomplete and they kind of totally okay going into the season with the way the team is right now, with a little addition here, a little addition there. It sounds to me like you need more of an impact move
Yeah,
for you to feel
I,
good about it going forward.
I do. I want to see more of an impact move to feel good about going into the 2026 season. But you're right that I certainly have plenty of Mets fans, whether it's on WFAN, on the radio, but also on social media, who are at me. That there are some that are very angry and that are in the camp of they're writing off the season. Oh, the season's over. This is going to be a disaster. It's going to be terrible. And then you get the ones who are I'm quitting this team. I'm this, all that sort of stuff. And you're like, first of all, the first winning streak, and you're going to be sucked back in. So you don't even mean it for those types of fans. But the other thing is, I actually do think that watching young players and the talent on this team, I think there is enough that impact bat, impact starting pitcher, and then I think this team could compare favorably with the 2024 Mets. Forget the 2025 Mets that were such a disappointment.
Yes. Now, is there one that you see as more important than the other? If there was because someone asked me yesterday while I was doing the show, if you go and get Kyle Tucker, or you okay with getting Kyle Tucker if it means that you have to go with this pitching staff? You can add on to this pitching staff because the Kyle Tucker contract, whatever it was, just takes you that far. Is that important for you? Do you feel like the hitter is more important than the pitcher, or is the pitcher more important than the hitter if they only needed to do one or could only do one of the two?
I'll answer your question, but before I choose, I will say that I should not have to choose. And
That was my
part
response.
of the benefit of having Steve Cohen and having one of the richest owners, if not the richest owner in baseball, there are the financial resources to go out and sign a player. That's one. Two, credit to then David Stearns and those who came before him, but what Stearns lately and his team have been doing. The Mets now have, between drafting and player development, the Mets have one of the top 10 minor league systems, farm systems in all of baseball. And there are those, whether you want to put them top 10, top 7, top 5, whatever it is, but it is a deep and talented farm system with a lot of players that are now bubbling up to that level of being, major league ready, almost major league ready. And so with all of that, I don't understand why the Mets should not be able to go out there, for instance, and trade for a starting pitcher. I think they absolutely can. And whether that's Freddy Peralta, Tarek Skubal, or someone else, I think they have the resources to go out there and make a trade. And not only do they have the minor league players and young players to be able to go out and make a trade, I think they almost need to go out and make at least one trade, because if you look at their minor league system, they're so loaded that, not everybody's going to be able to play, and guys are going to be sent down to other, guys will be playing at AA who really deserve to be at AAA. Guys will be playing at, single A who should be at AA. They are loaded, and it is, I think, it's bad judgment at a certain point if you keep prospect hugging and stockpiling and don't at any point. Yes, some of those players should be brought up to the major league system. Some of them are given a chance to play. Absolutely. You want to tell me right now, I would tell you, I think Nolan McLean and Carson Bench are virtually untouchable. Like, that's okay. But I don't know. Jet Williams, we can all love him. You can try and hang on to him. He's 5'7". How many 5'7" or below successful major leaguers, are there? I think there are 7 guys playing at who are 5'7" right now on active rosters in the big leagues. Not everybody is Jose Altuve. So I'm not saying that means you have to trade a Jet Williams, but I'm just saying that not all of them are going to end up being superstars. So I think the answer is do both. Make one trade for an impact player, make one free agent signing for an impact player. They should be able to do both. But if I had to choose between the two, I think there are a lot of people who would say starting pitcher. But personally, I would say bat. I would say give me the bat. If I can only pick one, I would take the impact bat because I really do feel like there is, there's a big gaping hole sitting there in the outfield right now where the Mets need a bat. Benj or someone like that can be in the mix to earn a spot and turn Taylor into a 4th outfielder, which is really what he kind of should be. That's fine. But that still leaves you one big hole out there. And I think this lineup has one big hole. They need an impact bat. That to me would be the priority. And then I realize there are a lot of question marks in terms of the rotation. But you know what? With guys like McClain and Christian Scott coming back, and depending on who you trade away, so let's say you trade Sproat, well, that still means a couple months into the season, maybe Tongues, starts to be ready or whatever it is. There's enough guys like that where, is it a bounce back for I think a healthy Manaea will be just fine. And, so I look at that rotation and I think they can be, I'd like to see them add. I think they should. But if I had to pick one of the two, I add the impact bat now, and between now and the trade deadline, they also could go out there and trade for a starting pitcher.
No, I think I agree with you 1,000%. That's pretty much the same way I answered. It was the way that you answered. Like, I don't think we should have to choose. That is why we have this owner. It was all about the resources. It's kind of a little bit why we have some of the frustration that we have right now, because some of the moves you feel like, man, we should be able to have kept the Pete Alonso with Steve Cohen. His last year or so of that contract be damned. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I thought a 3-4 year deal for Pete was just fine. I had no problem giving him 5 years. Pete hasn't shown any signs of breaking down, but we'll leave that alone. What's done is done. It is what it is. But I'm with you. And yeah, like I was talking about it before yesterday and a few days ago. You put Kyle Tucker in there, it changes a lot of things. And you can feel good about going to the season, even with the starting rotation, that it is a question mark with every single guy, though. That is the problem with the question mark. Yeah, there's some good in it. We're excited about Nolan McClain, but he's a rookie. How is that going to carry along? When is he going to hit a wall if he does? Or isn't he going to hit a wall? You have the innings. It's going to be a big jump. Who the heck is David Peterson? We thought we knew, but then last season, after a good start, was it the innings jump for him as well? And a lot of them, Clay Holmes was phenomenal, I thought. Probably the best starting, but he's also a question mark. How does he bounce back now in his second season as a starter? Is Sean Manaea really healthy, or the loose body's going to pop up again? And who is Sean Manaea? Is it that guy that we saw in 24? Or is it the guy that was meddling between the bullpen and a starter? But you put in there Kyle Tucker, and now you have, like you said, Tyrone Taylor as a 4th outfielder. And I'm okay with even starting the Carson Bench out of opening day if he wins the job. I can handle that. But right now, you look at the Mets depth chart, and you're talking about Carson Bench in left field and Tyrone Taylor in center field and Juan Soto in right, and it makes me want to throw up. It really makes me sick. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're so thankful to have Lori on here, but we want to get her out of here to go watch some football. So we're gonna this is like a speed blunt thoughts. We're gonna run through these things, but I do want to get her thoughts on a few things. And I do want to ask you about the dynamic that we're seeing now between ownership and front office, and the way that it seems like, yes, Steve Cohen is willing to provide the resources, but he's letting the baseball people do the baseball things. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that's how it should be in all sports, and of course the owner will get involved here and there, whatever the case may be. But We found out now David Stearns is in charge. He's been given a budget. Yeah, there's room to move from it or whatever the case may be. But how do you feel about that dynamic? Because I know that some people have an issue with it. I think it's great.
I think the ones who have an issue with it, it's a way of saying they have an issue with David Stearns. I think if they didn't have an issue, if David Stearns had already gone out and signed Kyle Tucker and given a contract to keep Pete Alonso, if this offseason so far was re-sign Alonso and sign Bellinger or Tucker, I think there'd be Mets fans going, yeah, no, I like it. I like that division where the owner, provides the checkbook when you need it, and he lets his baseball people make baseball decisions. I think people who, if you're saying you don't like it, I think it's simply saying you're not happy with the decisions David Stearns is making so far. Otherwise, philosophically, I agree with you. I think you want an owner who says, I'm here to support you. I provide all the financial resources that you need, but there's a reason I hired you, a guy who's really smart with a really good track record in the league, and I'm going to let you do your job. And by the way, I know fans, look, a lot of us are upset about how last season ended. It was a very disappointing year for that team. They underperformed the roster, no doubt about it. But and David Stearns made some miscalculations, but 2024 did happen. So his first year on the job, he made some moves, Minaya and other moves that worked out well. And that team, the OMG Mets, went to the NLCS and overachieved our expectations. And over the last couple of years with player development, they've also built what they said they would do when Steve Cohen started, which is a top 10 minor league system that will produce players like Nolan McLean and Carson Benj and others that will, for fans, like for everything that you want the team to go out and sign the big free agents and do that. Let me ask you, Hector, who are you, you mentioned a Pete Alonso. It's like your favorite Mets players. Aren't they generally the homegrown ones? Like, we love the homegrown players. In order for a player to be homegrown, he's got to come up from the minors and be given a chance, So it's a balancing act between those things. But yes, I like the division of labor. The owner provides a certain level of counsel and resources, but you let your baseball people run the show. And I think that in the long run, David Stearns is a smart enough baseball man that he will make good decisions more often than not.
Amazing. There was so much there, and something that I kind of wanted to throw my little thing into, but I may skip that because um the I think because of the way the off season is gone, it's easy to ignore what David Stearns has accomplished and what has been accomplished since Steve Cohen has taken ownership. And people are still upset to now the 3 to 5 years, and I'm gonna be disappointed if we don't win a World Series. He didn't say I'm gonna go jump off a bridge. He didn't say I'm gonna sell the team. He said he would be disappointed. Is there anyone here who thinks he's not disappointed that we haven't won a World Series?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that he
I'm
is.
disappointed. Steve Cohen's disappointed, and Hector, I would guess you're disappointed. We're all disappointed.
Extremely.
I would have liked them to have won the World Series. Steve Cohen, the owner, feels the same way.
Right.
Everybody's disappointed.
So in that, that he hasn't accomplished that. But I think besides that, you said earlier, we can debate, and you could depend on where you look. They're number 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, but they're somewhere in the top of the rankings as far as farm system, where before the Mets couldn't even talk about trades because they were laughed at because they had nothing to trade.
Right.
I know you dealt with phone calls all the time about whenever there was a rumor of a trade or the Mets can't get involved in the frustration that we all had because we couldn't get involved because we had nobody to trade.
This team, so think about it right now, top 10 farm system, and we'll see where the payroll ends up. But last year, in the last few years, but like a top 2 payroll. So top 2 payroll in the sport and a top 10 farm system. Now, again, it's a results business, and we all want them to win the World Series. Totally get it. Before we get there, we also want to see, and I think part of what David Stearns and Steve Cohen want is a a consistent playoff team. Make the postseason year after year so that you give yourself a chance then to cash in every once in a while and you win a World Series. That's the goal. Be a consistent playoff team, make the postseason, and then, yeah, I don't know. Sure, you would love to be a dynasty, but how about a World Series once a decade, and a consistent playoff team? Like that's what you're wanting them to start to put in place. But the foundation for that, to have one of the top couple of payrolls in the sport, so the resources are there, and to have one of the top 10 farm systems in the sport, so that the young players are there for both trade and bringing up to the major league team. Foundationally, there's a lot that's good. With that said, this off season I come back to is still an incomplete, and I will be disappointed. I am so far and will be if David Stearns doesn't deliver between now and opening day an impact bat and an impact starting pitcher, because that's what this team needs. And to me, that's the point of having the financial resources and the farm system.
I'm with you. And I think what I'm struggling with, and my follow-up question to that is, what I struggle with is, I'm trying to be open-minded. I'm trying to believe that at the end of the day, like you said, what David Stearns wants to accomplish is to give us that sustained success, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's always asking for. But my question to you is, do you feel like David Stearns is on the right track towards getting us there? Or do you need those moves? So if for some reason Kyle Tucker says, no, I'd rather go to the Dodgers for this short-term deal because I know I can win.
They may lose him to the
whatever.
Dodgers.
I don't want to put all those scenarios, but you know what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah. Somehow David Stearns has to deliver, I think, an impact bat and it doesn't have to be Kyle Tucker, an impact bat and an impact starter to the Mets. And if he does not do that, then both of those things, then I will say, all right, I found the off season a move short, disappointing. I will still be excited about the upcoming season, kind of see where this goes. Is it possible that the parts are somehow, that the sum of it ends up, I'll give Stearns the wait and see, and let's see how the season works out and what moves and what happens at the deadline and what happens with the young players and all of that. But I will go into the offseason. If he doesn't do the two things that I said, impact bat, doesn't have to be Kyle Tucker, but impact bat, impact starter. If he does not do those two things, I will say offseason was disappointing. And in terms of David Stearns, we know he was a good and successful general manager in Milwaukee. He is learning to be a good and successful general manager, president of baseball operations in New York City with one of the richest owners and having those resources and having the expectations there. And I think he can rise to the occasion and do that job. But yeah, so far he's 1 for 2. He's had 2 years on the job. The first season, great, 2024. The second season, bad, 2025. So he's 1 for 2. I'd like to see him, I think this is a big, important year for him.
Right. Since you mentioned it again, you know what I worry about 2024, Lori, is that, yes, he made some moves that worked out. But there was also an element of, the OMG. And I'm going to stay to the OMG. Forget about Grimace and all that, because OMG was within the team. That happened within the team. And there is a worry with David Stearns. Does he ignore dynamics of a clubhouse? Does he ignore chemistry and stuff like that? And I can't ignore that 2024 in the beginning, we were still like, oh, what is this team? What's going on? We weren't too happy. And it took JD finally coming up, who landed on his lap, because he didn't want to sign JD until JD finally came with that team-friendly deal that he wanted to. And then JD finally comes up, and JD suggests to Carlos Mendoza, who asked him, hey, what can we do to loosen things up here, to change things? And JD says, bring up Jose Iglesias, whom was upset that he was down in the minors, but was in the minors nonetheless. So those elements did have something to do with, okay, yes, David Stearns did bring in Luis Severino, and he had a good year. and Manar had a good year. And he did sign those guys that helped change the clubhouse and spur this team. So I do worry about that with David Stearns a little bit in the
Yeah,
24, and
so
let's ignore that.
yeah, I would say I'd give him credit for having signed Iglesias and had him in the minor leagues so he could bring him up. I mean, Iglesias was not sitting on someone else's roster. He was there in the
Right.
Mets minor league system. So he did put those things in place. And you mentioned the pitching moves that worked out. I also think that when it comes to clubhouse chemistry, he clearly did take seriously that there was a problem with the chemistry of the 2025 Mets. And so it's not just, oh, do they want to spend the money or not spend the money? They obviously thought there was something off with that clubhouse. And, you know, as an example, getting rid of a guy like Jeff McNeil and bringing in a guy like Marcus Semien, I think, yes, sure, one guy is a Gold Glove defender. That's part of it and all of that. But some of that is about chemistry. So I think David Stearns took that somewhat seriously and looked at that core that some of those players, Mets fans, had fallen in love with. But I think he felt like this was a core that was going to underachieve over time and something was off.
Right. Now, I want to be a man of my word and get you out of here. So last thing here is there's something you were just talking about, and I think it's what we're all waiting for. And is when is David Stearns going to get out of his comfort zone and how he's used to operating in Milwaukee and realize, hey, I'm in New York, I have this owner, and every little mistake is not going to derail me for years. You know, I can make a mistake and overcome it here. And this is what I worry about, and why, and kind of why I mentioned 2024 and the JD Martinez falling on his lap, because even kind of twofold. What do we make of this Kyle Tucker noise the last couple of days, thanks to Jim Duquette? And because we see the urgency of needing a big bat. Okay, maybe it's not through free agency, maybe it's through trade. Eventually, you have to come out of your comfort zone and either spend through trades. And I've always said a good organization knows which guys to move on from and which to keep. Don't be the Yankees and hold on to these guys and hype them up for years, and then you don't trade them and you don't bring them up and you don't develop them, whatever. Don't do that. Figure out which one of the four, Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio, is worth keeping. Acuna, with all his heroics in Winter League, is that worth keeping around, or do you trade on that? You're the genius. Figure it out, David Stearns. You got to do it. We need an impact bat. Is that Kyle Tucker? Whoa, you don't like giving long-term deals? Maybe this is the guy. You come out of your comfort zone and you say, you know what? I'm going to give him that 8-year deal that I wouldn't want to give him because I need this bat and he's that impactful. You know what I'm saying? And I can do that here with the New York Mets. And is Kyle Tucker the guy that he should do it with? So it's like a 3-part question. If you could even follow it along, I'm sorry. But
I'm only going to answer it as a 1-part question and simplify it. And it's
You're the professional.
You asked me before about that relationship between owner and GM, president of baseball operations, David, Steve Cohen, David Stearns. I think this is where Steve Cohen, the experienced businessman, does need to mentor his young baseball executive. You don't tell him what moves to make, baseball moves to make. That's up to Stearns. But if there is a player he likes and he's identified that he likes, this is where I think the owner can and should weigh in to say, all right, it's time to get out of your comfort zone. I've let you go this far. Now we're on the edge of a deal. I'm going to mentor you on how to close a deal. And that sometimes you go beyond what you're comfortable with because we have to close a deal. And that's what they did with Juan Soto. Obviously, right. David Stearns wanted Juan Soto. They wanted Yamamoto. For people who think that Stearns would not offer a long-term deal to a pitcher, yes, he will. He just wants it to be a 25-year-old pitcher with incredible upside. So then they'll offer 10 years and $325 million. So but the owner, I think, might have to push his young executive to say it's time to get out of your comfort zone. Let's go close a deal.
I think that is a great answer. I agree with Alpha here. Very reasonable. Um, yeah, and I think that's definitely the time for the owner to meddle because I agree with you. Yeah, who wouldn't want Juan Soto? But I think if it was up to David Stearns, it wouldn't he wouldn't be here for 15 years and that craziness of a deal. I don't even like that deal, to be honest with you. I don't like that deal. But I think that's exactly where we need to leave it. Like I said, want to be a man of my words and get you out of here, get to the football. I want to watch a little myself, Laurie, but I have to have you back because this was great and I know the people enjoyed it and they were looking forward to it. But we greatly appreciate it. Um, Too bad we couldn't get something exciting to talk about. Maybe next time we will. But
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye bye. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Short, quick, sweet. But like I said, they didn't want to take up too much of her time. She was great enough to do this, even though we both realized, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? There's playoff football going on. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys want to probably get to that and watch some football. But I think we're all at the same place as Mets fans for the most part. Yeah, you have the radicals, on either side, the overly positive, the overly negative. I know both. I know some on each side. I try to be somewhere in the middle, although I can go to either side. Some people could say, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we already know what it is, man. We just want a success for this team, and we want the ultimate success. And I still believe we have the right infrastructure to achieve that success. Yeah, there's going to be bumps in the road, and last season was a bump in the road. Last season was a bump in the road. Now the repairs are going on. While repairs are going on, it's not pleasant. There's detours, there's this, there's that, and it could get a little frustrating. We'll see how it all ends up. I'm gonna get out of here myself. I want to thank everybody for being with me the last 2 nights. Appreciate you guys. If something happens, we'll come on later on in the week. Got a couple of things in mind that I want to do, but I also got things that I got to take care of. So it's why we've been a little bit, slow with stuff. Other than that, enjoy the football if you partake in that. Enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you do. If you don't partake in the football, but you already know what it is, man. No matter what the hell is going on, it's all day, every day. Let's go, Mets, baby. Peace out, everybody.
My clique full of animals and we made ourselves with minimal. Fuck you, no subliminals. Putting in this work, nigga. That's why they feelings hurt, nigga. Swear we need a hearse cause we rep our shites to the dirt, nigga. If I'm in the club, I'm